that support the self to turn towards itself in self-discovery and to turn towards source in an attitude of devotion. Back in the 1990s, my PhD dissertation, it's entitled Effects of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra on Stress, Depression, and the Three Gunas. So there's many mantras in ancient spiritual traditions. So in the Sanskrit Vedic spiritual tradition, there's many mantras, and it's described in the Svetashvatara Upanishad, Iti Shodha Shakam Nam Nam Kalikama Shanashanam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That for this particular age called Kali Yuga, this particular mantra, which we just sang in Kirtan, chanting or singing this particular mantra is especially recommended for self-realization and developing God consciousness in this age. And there's many reasons why it's especially recommended. Maybe we'll talk about those a little bit later. And this is Srila Prabhupada. He's our prime spiritual mentor and teacher. He's there on the altar with a garland in the center. And today's an especially special day. Today's what's called the appearance day, or we could say the birthday of Srila Prabhupada's spiritual teacher. His name is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, and he's the other one on my side of the altar with the garland. So it's like his 150th anniversary of his birthday. And Srila Prabhupada would say, he would often say, yes, just try this chanting Hare Krishna. It doesn't cost anything. There's no tax. And yeah, so it's mantra yoga. Pretty much everyone in the world knows the term yoga. What is yoga actually? Actually, like the English word yoke comes from the Sanskrit yoga, means to connect. In its essential sense, yoga means the self connecting with itself in self-realization and turning with a devotional attitude towards the Supreme Person. And that process is called bhakti. So anything that we do that truly supports us in self-realization and God consciousness, that's yoga. If, say, an agriculturalist is working on the earth and then actually brings them closer to their authentic self and connection with creator, source, the absolute, that would be called karma yoga. So this is what we just did in Kirtan. That's called mantra yoga. It's called mantra yoga. So as we continue our program, I'm going to chant a few more mantras to continue to invoke auspiciousness in our gathering. And these mantras are kind of asking that whatever I might speak appropriately represents the spirit, substance, and content of this ancient bhakti tradition that we're representing. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayamupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Ragana Tanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vanchakalpa Tuyubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gora Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatari. And because today is the 150th anniversary of the appearance day, the birthday of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Goswami Thakur. Well, Jai, Hare Krishna. We'll also recite special mantras to honor this special personality, and just to make a distinction. Sometimes on these appearance days, Prabhupada, he's the personality central in the altar, Srila Prabhupada. Sometimes he would say Krishna's birthday and like that. The more technical term would be appearance day. So just like for living entities that are materially conditioned, that were not fully enlightened, not fully self-realized, and like that. So then we're like, according to our desires and the karma we've created over so many lifetimes, we're forced to take birth in a particular body, in a particular situation, like that. Of course, the special opportunity in the human form is really we can transcend our karma. We can destroy our karma simply by conscious sattvic living and engaging in bhakti yoga. And so special personalities like Krishna himself, or Jesus, or Srila Prabhupada, or Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, Natasya Karyam Karanam Chavidyate, they're not forced to take birth to fulfill some lower self-desires. They choose to come in co-creation with God. They choose to appear to serve spiritual mission. And because personalities like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and Srila Prabhupada, because they chose to appear, that's why here we are in North Florida, Alachua County, Florida, chanting Hare Krishna and studying books like Brahma-samhita and Bhagavad Gita. Otherwise, I don't even want to think about, where I'd be doing. So here's the 4 pranam mantras for Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Ti Namine. I offer my respectful obeisances unto His divine grace, Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at his lotus feet. Shri Varshabhanavi Devi Daitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Daine Prabhave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances to Shri Varshabhanavi Devi Daita Das, another name of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati, who is favored by Srimati Radharani and who is the ocean of transcendental mercy and the deliverer of the science of Krishna. Madhuryo Jvala Premadya Sri Rupanuga Bhaktida Sri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, the personified energy of Sri Chaitanya's mercy, who delivered devotional service which is enriched with conjugal love of Radha and Krishna, coming exactly in the line of revelation of Srila Rupa Goswami. Namaste Gauravani Sri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudha Pasidanta Dvantaharine. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who are the personified teachings of Lord Chaitanya, You are the deliverer of the fallen souls. You do not tolerate any statement which is against the teachings of devotional service enunciated by Srila Rupa Goswami. Hare Krishna. In that second mantra, it describes that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he's the deliverer of the science of Krishna. So, I mean, that's an interesting word and a very appropriate word. I know for myself, looking throughout my life, I've never been interested in religion. And I'm still not interested in religion. I say, well, every day, like for 5 hours in the morning, you do these. What do you mean you're not interested in that? We have this. So religion in the ordinary sense, and since I'm in my mid-teens, I have been excited about, I'll call it like transformational processes that actually work. Like not about like believing this, believing that. Look, so if we think of science, there are two main pillars to science. Two foundational preliminary pillars. One is that there's a consistent hypothesis, a logical hypothesis. Okay, like 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen make water. Okay, you can follow the chemical algebra. All right, so then the hypothesis that's here in these books, especially Bhagavad Gita, as it is. This is the fun, and then the other dozens of books, they expand on. And so I know myself, when I was in my teens and early 20s, I know I was certainly not looking for God. I mean, if you ask me, like, list 100 things you want in life, like God would not be on the list. I was not looking for spirituality or anything like that. And anyhow, as higher powers arranged it, over a period of about 3 years, I consumed more than 1,000 plates of prasadam before I chanted my first round of japa. It's a true story. So Prabhupada said, prasadam, that's the spiritual sanctified vegetarian food. It's the secret weapon to purify the heart. And then actually it was the summer of 1983. I was backpacking around Europe on a Ural pass, summer of 1983. And I stopped at a place outside of Florence, Italy called Villa Vrindavan. And I read Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is, cover to cover. And well, sometimes I put it this way. I read Bhagavad Gita cover to cover, and it ruined my life. So now I'm dedicated to share it with others. Ruined my life, meaning I had plans for my life. They seemed like fine plans. But what I'm saying is, I had to admit to myself, this makes sense. What was here? Now, no one here needs to trust me. David Wolf says to me, oh, why should I? No one needs here to trust me. And we're actually, Bhagavad Gita completely discourages blind following. And it encourages apply our intelligence thoughtfully. And so there were just paradigms of thought. And I'd been exposed to philosophies, visited different religious groups, and like that. Even just after I read Bhagavad Gita, I spent significant time in a yeshiva in Ir Atika, the old city of Jerusalem, Eshat Torah. It's a place of Jewish learning. Your name is Jacob. What's the meaning of your name?
To me,
yeah.
Or historically?
Wherever you want to go with it.
I would say the story I'm not intimately familiar with.
Okay.
But it's this the concept of the story of the ladder is
Jacob's ladder. Yeah. So actually, Jacob comes from the Hebrew. Actually in the Hebrew, there's no J. Just like sometimes they say in the Old Testament, the name for the God is Jehovah. Couldn't be true. There's no J in Hebrew. Even Jesus, no one was saying Jesus. There's no J, so Yeshu. So actually, the original name would be Yaakov. And the meaning of Yaakov, in English, it becomes Jacob. The meaning of Yaakov is one who follows God. It's actually the meaning of the name Jacob. That's a little factoid there. Hare Krishna. So, okay. So now, just because something seems logical doesn't mean it's true. So then another pillar of science is experiment. We get to do an experiment, have an experience to validate or not validate the assertions of the hypothesis. Just like, and say, well, okay, so it seems to make sense on paper, 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen makes water, but I'm skeptical, I don't believe it. Okay, it's not about blind, look, if you want, you can go into the laboratory and do the experiment that millions of chemists have done and see if you get the same results. And you don't need to believe. So that's what I saw with Bhagavad Gita. It wasn't just, it was presenting a philosophy of life, a philosophy of existence, a philosophy of who I am, a philosophy of what's the purpose of life, that made not just a little bit, but made like thousands of times more sense than anything else I've been exposed to. And simultaneously, it was giving a process. And here's a process you can follow. Here's a process you can follow. And in this one sense, go into the laboratory and the laboratory of our own consciousness and see if you experience the same effects that countless spiritual scientists have experienced. So at that time I was like 22 years old, and I thought, well, I like to think of myself as an honest person. So if I really regard myself as an honest person, I need to give myself to this experiment, even though it went against like my image of myself. I'm not this spiritual person. What would people think? What would my parents think? What would my friends back home think? Like that. But I said, if I really consider myself an honest person, I should give myself to this experiment. And so I decided to try to practice the Bhakti Yoga. I mean, just to read Bhagavad Gita, that is part of the practice. I decided to give myself to other parts of the practice, like kirtan and different principles. I said for 6 months, and actually at that time in my life, 84, I moved into a Bhakti Yoga ashram of all places, outside of Tel Aviv, Israel, of all places, a Bhakti Yoga ashram. And I decided to do a 6-month experiment. And it could be said, it's 40 years later, I'm still doing the experiment because I'm satisfied with the results. And I still say, if someone shows me something better, that'll give me more happiness and makes more sense, I'll take it. So I been putting out that challenge for 40 years. So far, no one's showed me anything better. And so I still read Prabhupada's books every day and chant Hare Krishna. So, yeah, so Bhaktisiddhanta, Srila Prabhupada, they're giving a science of self-realization. And just like, it's a science, so just like, let's say if we want to learn physics, then, we can try on our own to, maybe after 1 billion years, I'll come up with something approaching Newton's law of gravitation. Probably not, I'm not smart, So basically, if we're serious about learning physics, just obvious stuff, we find a teacher. We find like a credible teacher. Not just physics. If we want to learn guitar, if I want to learn how to get good at tennis, we're going to find a credible teacher. We'll find a book. Oh, here's a university with a degree program. It's accredited. Yeah, so that's the principle. And that I'm sharing that to kind of demystify the guru principle. this term guru, like many words from the Sanskrit have become well known in the West. Yoga, mantra, guru, dharma. So guru basically means teacher. And so again, if I want to get good at physics or tennis, I'll find a teacher who like is a master at this. No way. So like Srila Prabhupada and his teacher, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, they're masters in spiritual life. And so at a point in life where I said, yeah, I want to take this seriously, so that I'm not just like here and there, like just like say with tennis, I can just hit the ball here and there. But if I really want to get good, I'll find like a master coach or something. Same with physics. I can hear and there, but if I really want to get good, now let's learn from those who are like experts. So I thought these are transcriptions of lectures that Srila Prabhupada gave back 50, 55 years ago. And he gave several lectures on the birthday, the appearance day of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. I just thought to read a few excerpts so we hear from our current link to the disciplic succession. This is an important point. It's an important point that because in the name of spiritual life, there's actually a lot of cheating going on. In the name of spiritual life, there's actually, just like, again, say if I want to learn physics, I can go, I want to learn physics, and maybe I could meet someone on the street. Oh yeah, you want to? No, I can teach everything you want to know about physics. You're just gonna be $50,000. No, I'll teach you everything you want to know about physics. Oh, okay. Like that would be foolish. I'd get cheated. And so it's like an obvious example. Like now, if I want to know about physics, I'm going to read a book from someone who has a PhD from a respected university. Like, come on. When in spiritual life, many people tend to be very kind of gullible and naive. And so there's a lot of just nonsense, even I'll say garbage going on in the name of spiritual life. And so it's just like even the term yoga. Okay, so many yoga centers. All right, so what's the source book? What's the origin about yoga? Well, this is it. All the types of karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga. So it's like, okay, so Bhagavad Gita. I remember in 2010, the Kripalu Center for Yoga and Health, they invited Sattvato, they invited us to conduct a Sattvato foundational seminar at their place in Massachusetts. They also invited us to conduct some mantra yoga workshops where we taught Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, gave out japa beads. And then in the foundational seminar, everything's authentically based on Bhagavad Gita. And then it just so happened that in our particular course, many of the administrators of Kripalu, they attended, they participated in the foundational seminar, and afterwards they were appreciative of their experience and their learning and their realizations. And they particularly said that they really appreciated that everything was truly based on the authentic ancient tradition, because these are like leaders in the yoga world. These are like leaders in the yoga world, and they and they all said like practically more and more, like practically nothing in the name of yoga is the authentic thing anymore. So Hare Krishna Damayanti. Okay. All right. So Srila Prabhupada, speaking about Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. Okay. This is from February 7th, 1969 in Los Angeles. Srila Prabhupada says, so his method of preaching is just strictly according to the rules and regulation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was called by Advaita Prabhu, similarly, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Hare Krishna. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, when he saw this condition of pseudo Vaishnav all over the country, he also prayed to Lord Chaitanya that you kindly send somebody from your personal staff, from Lord Chaitanya's personal staff, so that I can start this movement. You see? So by the grace of Lord Chaitanya, as we pray, Sri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute, Gora, he is mercy representation of Lord Chaitanya, and he appeared as the son of this Bhakti Vinod Thakur. At that time, he was known as Kedranath Dat Kendat, and he appeared in 1867 as the child of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, and the house is still preserved in Jagannath Puri. At that time, Jagannath Puri, he was magistrate in Jagannath Puri. The system in Jagannath Puri, the manager, the official manager, is the district magistrate. So he was district magistrate, and when Bhaktisiddhanta appeared, what is called the umbilical cord was wrapped with the intestine. It was like this. So Prabhupada shows. So the intestine, the umbilical cord, when Bhaktisiddhanta was born, was wrapped around his neck like a Brahmin thread. So it's a very auspicious sign. So Prabhupada says this means Brahmin from the beginning, you see? So when he was a child, he appeared in February. Then when the Ratha Yatra takes place in July, so February, March, April, May, June, July. So when he was 6 months old, the Ratha Yatra festival was held. And by chance, the big cart stopped in front of that house. That is generally in the Jagannath car stops. Just like our car also stops somewhere. And you have some difficulty to push it again. That's nice. That also happens in Jagannath Puri. It was stopped. And some people were, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to push with his head. So that was wonderful. So anyway, the car stopped, and mother of our Guru Maharaj, the child Guru Maharaj, so she took the opportunity, and because she was manager's life, so everyone respected with the child. So she put the child on the leg of Jagannath, and as there are so many garlands, one garland immediately fell on the child automatically. So in this way, Bhakti Vinod could understand this child is not ordinary child. And he knew that. I prayed to Gaura Sundar to send me somebody. So this boy, this child is sent by him. So he took care of him very carefully. And in this way, his name was Bimala Prasad Dat. And now we'll hear a bit about the first meeting between Srila Prabhupada and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. So then Prabhupada is saying, that in Calcutta, Guru Maharaj started he started this mission in 1918. In 1922, when I was a young man, so Srila Prabhupada's about 25 years old, one of my friends, he took me to Guru Maharaj. That was my first meeting. And of course, he was speaking to everyone, but he found me as something. So immediately after my meeting, he said this, that why don't you preach this Chaitanya's cult in the Western countries? That is a memorable day. Of course, I did not know that I will have to do it. But you see, I talked with him in so many ways. Who will hear your Chaitanya's message? We are a dependent country. At that time, I was Gandhi's devotee, Mahatma Gandhi. In 1920, I gave up my educational career and joined this Congress movement because Gandhi's program was to boycott the university education and the British law court. So we took this opportunity and gave up education, you see, and Prabhupada chuckles. So then Dr. Bose, he was my father's friend. So he asked, what this Abai is doing? And my sister told him, oh, he has appeared in the BA examination, but he is not doing anything. So Dr. Bose was my father's friend. So he appointed me the manager of his laboratory. So in 1922, when I saw my Guru Maharaj and when I was convinced about his argument and mode of presentation, I was so much struck with wonder. I could understand that here is the proper person who can give real spiritual idea. That I appreciated at that time. And at that time I thought, this great personality is asking me to preach. I would have immediately joined, but now I am married. It will be injustice. Of course, I thought like that, in that way. Guru Maharaj did not say anything. He didn't say, you give up your family life. No, never said. He simply gave the idea. So I thought that it would have been better if I was not married. Anyway, 1923, I left Calcutta on my business and I established my headquarters in Allahabad. So all the days I was thinking of this, oh, I saw a very nice saintly person, but I am now off from Calcutta. So I was thinking like that. Practically, he initiated me because I was always thinking of. And so Prabhupada often emphasizes that the real initiation was 1922. It wasn't like when he saw Bhaktisiddhanta, because he saw Bhaktisiddhanta and Srila Prabhupada, Abhay Charan. He accepted Bhaktisiddhanta's mission as his life and soul. That was the initiation. And in 1933, he got the formal initiation. So Srila Prabhupada, I would say he gave us dozens, let's say 54, 55 major books. And I can say my favorite thing to do in life is to read all of Prabhupada's books over and over again. So it's just me like that. And so I just read all of those books around. And of course, he has many more books that are like collections of lectures and things like that. And Srila Prabhupada is what we call our current living direct link to the disciplic succession of Bhagavad Gita. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Bhaktosi me sakacheti rahasyam ye tadutamam. Krishna says, Krishna is speaking to Arjuna. And Krishna says, because you're my devotee and you're my friend. Therefore, you can understand the transcendental mysteries of the spiritual science. So this is why Bhagavad Gita changed my life, and Prabhupada, all of Prabhupada's books, because Prabhupada is in the line of Arjuna. He's Krishna's devotee, he's Krishna's friend, and therefore he's empowered to represent the speaker of Bhagavad Gita, and that's Krishna. It was actually, when Prabhupada came out with Bhagavad Gita as it is in the late 60s, by that time, there were already hundreds, maybe 600 translations of Bhagavad Gita into English and other Western languages. Now it's thousands, like that. And so clearly, this Bhagavad Gita means Song of the Supreme. Clearly, Bhagavad Gita was appreciated by the Germans and the Americans and the French and the British going back to the 1700s. Okay. And they translated it. At the same time, it's true to say, and this is just historical fact, Prabhupada came out with Bhagavad Gita as it is, and within a few years, a decade, millions of lives completely transformed. Millions of lives completely transformed. The other Gitas, people appreciate them, but no one became a devotee of Krishna. No one, or almost no one. Lives were not transformed. And this is just historical fact. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is better, or that you'll like it more. You might, I'm not saying it's the most comfortable read, and it was very uncomfortable for me. Like, it's so uncomfortable. It's like, because like it forces me to look at myself. It's uncomfortable. When I'm just saying historically, it's had thousands of times more transformational impact than all the other Bhagavad Gitas combined. And the reason for that is because Prabhupada he's a devotee of Bhagavad Gita. His life and soul is committed to walking the talk. And he's also the greatest Vedic scholar of the modern age. So he has the scholarship and he has the bhakti. So one of his names is Bhaktisiddhanta. So Srila Prabhupada, so his spiritual teacher, Bhaktisiddhanta, is known as the walking encyclopedia. So he was quite this, I don't genius doesn't cover it. So he's like this amazing intellect and also a pure devotee of Bhagavad Gita. So Srila Prabhupada gave us, so Bhaktisiddhanta wrote in a few languages, and Srila Prabhupada gave us one book from Bhaktisiddhanta in English. And so I just thought, because we're hearing about Bhaktisiddhanta, we're hearing from Prabhupada about Bhaktisiddhanta, like that. So we'll hear a bit directly from Bhaktisiddhanta. And I don't know if it's a warning or whatever, but his English tends to be quite lofty. He's speaking like to British and Bengali intellectuals from 100 years ago or so. So Brahma-samhita, this is really eternal personally revealed literature, and it was lost in antiquity for a long time, and then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu discovered it in an ancient temple about 500 years ago. And then Bhaktisiddhanta is giving out an English translation with purport about 90 years ago. So this is the first text of the 5th chapter of Brahma-samhita. So we can just go through it, get a feel for it, have an experience. I'll do the words one at a time. It's here. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karanam Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Govinda Sarva Karanam Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Govinda Sarva Karana Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Govinda Sarva Karanam Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Govinda Sarva Karanam
Ishvara Parama Krishna
Ishvara Parama Krishna
Bhaktivedanta Vigraha
Satchidananda Vigraha
Nadir Govinda
Anadir Govinda Sarva Karanam
Ishvara Parama Krishna
Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Govinda Sarva Karanam Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. Okay, we'll look at the word meanings. Ishvara, the controller. Parama, supreme. Krishna, Lord Krishna. Sat, comprising eternal existence. Chit, absolute knowledge. Ananda, an absolute bliss. Vigraha, whose form. Anadi, without beginning. Adi, the origin. Govinda, Lord Govinda. Sarva Karana Karanam, the cause of all causes. Translation by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Goswami. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the supreme Godhead. He has an eternal, blissful spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, and he is the prime cause of all causes. Purport by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur. Krishna is the exalted supreme entity, having his eternal name, eternal form, eternal attribution, and eternal pastimes. The very name Krishna implies his love-attracting designation, expressing by his eternal nomenclature the acme of entity. His eternal, beautiful, heavenly, blue-tinged body, glowing with the intensity of ever-existing knowledge, has a flute in both hands. As his inconceivable spiritual energy is all-extending, still he maintains his all-charming medium size by his qualifying spiritual instrumentals. His all-accompanying supreme subjectivity is nicely manifested in his eternal form. The concentrated all-time presence, uncovered knowledge, and inebriating felicity have their beauty in him. The mundane manifested portion of his own self is known as all-pervading Paramatma, Ishvara, Superior Lord, or Vishnu, all-fostering. Hence it is evident that Krishna is sole supreme Godhead. His unrivaled or unique spiritual body or super excellent charm is eternally unveiled with innumerable spiritual instrumental senses and unreckonable attributes, keeping their signifying location properly, adjusting at the same time by his inconceivable conciliative powers. This beautiful spiritual figure is identical with Krishna, and the spiritual entity of Krishna is identical with his own figure. The very intensely blended entity of eternal presence of felicitous cognition is the charming, targeted, holding, or transcendental icon. It follows that the conception of the indistinguishable formless magnitude Brahman, which is an indolent, lax presentiment of cognitive bliss, is merely a penumbra of intensely blended glow of the three concomitants, vis-a-vis the blissful, the substantive, and the cognitive. This transcendental manifestive icon Krishna in his original face is primordial background of magnitudinal infinite Brahman and of the all-pervasive oversoul. Krishna, as truly visioned in his variegated pastimes, such as owner of transcendental cows, chief of cowherds, consort of milkmaids, ruler of the terrestrial abode Gokula, and object of worship by transcendental residents of Goloka beauties, is Govinda. He is the root cause of all causes, who are the predominating and predominated agents of the universe. The glance of his projected fractional portion is the sacred originating water, vis-a-vis the personal oversoul or Paramatma, giving rise to a secondary potency, nature, who creates this mundane universe. This oversoul's intermediate energy brings forth the individual souls analogously to the emanated rays of the sun. This book is a treatise of Krishna, so the preamble is enacted by chanting his name in the beginning. Hare Krishna. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigrahana Dhira Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktisiddhanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so, okay, well, one thing coming to me. This was like, I know in a lot of the services I do like counseling, coaching, therapy, transformational seminars, personal growth. So a lot, we talk a lot about like going deep, going deep. Okay. So it doesn't get deeper than what we just read. Now, I don't want to keep that. I want to unpack that statement. What do I mean by this? So, okay, so that okay, going deep. So that it's described in Bhagavad Gita. Dihinosmi dehe komaram yovinamjara tatade hantara praptir jirast tranamuyati. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body, from childhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at the time of death. So again, we talked earlier about the science of self-realization. So this is universal. This is sectarian. The body changes till we have some constant identity. Just a quick thought exercise we do a lot. So imagine you're looking at a photo of yourself from when you were 5 years old. Just imagine. So when you look at that photo, when I look at that photo, do I say, who is this person? Who is this stranger? No. I say, that's me. That's David. You say, that's Jacob when I was 5. Now we know from science, there's not one molecule in the body now that was there at 5 years old. We can say the body grew, but that's not true. Not like the molecules got bigger and bigger. No, all the parts are replaced. Still, there's some constant identity that I call David. You call Jacob. So that indicates that identity, going deep into who am I, that identity is something completely non-physical. Okay, so there are some theories that the very substratum of existence is nothing, nothingness. Other theories, the very substratum of existence is matter. Now we just did like an empirical proof. Actually, the actual identity that is me, that's nothing physical. So what is it positively? Well, then we have knowledge and experiments in bhakti to realize who I am as that irreducible quantum of consciousness that inhabits the body. So we can say at the very substratum of existence, there's that spirit soul, that atomic unit of sentience that is actually me. So that's getting deeper, but it's still not getting to the very foundation. Okay, and then it gets, well, okay, then that's very substratum, not to, then there's the oneness of spirit. There is a oneness of spirit, but then what's coming to here? Janma yasya yata, janma yasya yaton bayadi tiratash. Yeshu Svara. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Oh my Lord, Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, all-pervading personality of Godhead. So just that a philosophical principle is what exists in the effect must exist in the source. You're a person, I'm a person, we have qualities, we like to dance, we like to sing, we like to eat. So how can we deny that to the source, personhood? So what Brahma is saying, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta is giving, the very substratum of existence is transcendental personhood. Just like a few minutes ago, we went to the very roots of the name Jacob, Yaakov, one who follows God. So right there at the beginning of the Hebrew Old Testament, B'Tselem Elohim. Tselem is biblical Hebrew for photocopy. I remember when I was Bhakti Dev in Israel, go to the shop and get Chilumim, which means photocopies. So, but God using that word says that, okay, humans exist in the image of God, in the photocopy, the facsimile of God. So at the very, so because here's the thing, we want to go deep as human beings. We're thinking, we're philosophical people, and that unless we get to the very foundation, the substratum of existence, we're always going to be dissatisfied. That's why Bhaktisiddhanta starts here, because we can go as we have these deep conversations, this and that. But to the extent that we're still in the illusion that I'm this stuff, it's very superfluous. It's very superfluous. And we can get to, oh no, I'm something spiritual. Okay, it's getting deeper. But I'm part and parcel of that transcendental person. And we begin to get information, and then further information is given as we go on. So this is the very substratum of existence. Krishna, so it's known as Govinda, is the supreme Godhead. He has an eternal blissful spiritual body. He's the origin of all. He has no other origin, and he is the prime cause of all causes. So now we connect there, and we direct our energies and a propensity for singing and dancing and philosophizing and working towards the substratum of existence. The technical name for that is bhakti. Then we're completely satisfied. And as this treatise goes on, it describes a whole lot more about the variegatedness and the color and the spiritual, not material, spiritual personality. Just like earlier in the talk, we gave a distinction between material birth and spiritual appearance. It describes, for example, Chintamani prakarasat masukalpa vriksha laksha viteshu surabhira vipalayantam Lakshmi sahasrasatasam brahma sevyamanam Govinda pusham tamaham bhajami. It's text 29 of Brahma-samhita. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor, who is tending the cows, yielding all desires in abodes built of spiritual gems, surrounded by millions of purpose trees and served with great reverence and affection by hundreds and thousands of Lakshmis or gopis. So we get into the spiritual personality and spiritual activities, and then we as spirit souls are completely satisfied, completely satisfied. Venum kvanantam aravinda delaya taksham barhavatam samasitam buddha sundarangam kandarpa koti kamaniya vishesha shobham govindamadi pusham tamaham bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is adept at playing on his flute, with blooming eyes like lotus petals, and head bedecked with peacock feather, whose figure of beauty is tinged with the hue of dark blue rain clouds, and whose unique loveliness is charming millions of cupids. So just like we like music, you say, oh, but the supreme, the source, there can be no music or dancing. So like everything in this realm is like a shadow. Just like from a shadow, we can get an idea that something substantial exists. Let's say if there's the shadow of a person, the shadow of a tree. And that's exactly the analogy that Krishna uses in chapter 15 of the Bhagavad Gita. He says, okay, that's a little bit like Plato's cave, but Krishna, he says, okay, there's a tree with its branches down and its roots up. Branches down, what's that? No, there is such a thing. If we're standing on the bank of a river or a lake, and on the other side, on the other bank, there's a tree, in this case, a banyan tree, then the reflection in the water, the branches are down and the roots are up. Okay, so Krishna, now, let's say there's a fruit, like a mango fruit or something, or a fig, and we reach into the reflection. There's no substance. There's no satisfaction. So, and there's many philosophers that accurately come to the conclusion, like everything in the material realm, that's ephemeral, that's illusion, that's all empty, that's illusion, and that's true. And then in the purport to the 15th chapter, Srila Prabhupada, he says, he gives an analogy from geometry. He says, yeah, but that's only 180 degrees. A circle has 360 degrees. So 100, yes, so material world is, and that's That's why, to the extent that we're spiritually not connected, we're always, Saint Francis said, we're searching for what is searching. If I could just get that car, if I could just get that respect from that, if I could just get that position in the company, if I could just get that land, that money in the bank, then I'll be happy. And then it's always empty, because we're searching external to that which is intrinsic to the self, alive in devotional service to Krishna. We're searching for what is searching, St. Francis. So Prabhupada said, that's 180 degrees. Now, important. He said, but there's another 180 degrees, geometry. So Prabhupada's making a point. So the reflected banyan tree, that's all illusion, true. But there's a real banyan tree. And this process of bhakti, as far as I'm aware, it's the only process that not just exposes the illusion of material life, but it gives us the substance of the real. There's real fruits, means there's real satisfying relationships, satisfying color, satisfying music and dancing and communication like that. A related analogy Prabhupada gives, just like if there's a say an animal, could be a human animal or any sort of animal in the desert, and the animal's hot and thirsty, running 50 yards away, there's an oasis in it, but then after 50 yards, just a mirage. But the oasis, it's 100 yards that way. No, that's just a mirage. And then eventually the animal just dies because there's no water. But that's not true. It's true that there's no water in the desert, but there is real water. So there is real satisfaction for the soul. There's a real banyan tree. And that's what this process of Brahma-samhita, that's what Bhaktisiddhanta appeared to give us, that which is truly satisfying for the soul. And then he describes in his purport the non-difference of Krishna. And the Krishna, we define Krishna as the very foundation, the substratum of existence itself. We connect there, then we're satisfied. Krishna is non-different from his name and from his form. And so that's why we can think, actually Srila Prabhupada would sometimes say, especially in some early lectures, no, you can chant, you chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. He said, you can try, chant Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola. Because there were some yogis at the time saying you could chant Coca-Cola and you'll have the same effect. You can do an experiment. I don't think anyone will get very far chanting Coca-Cola. In my PhD dissertation, we had a group chanting Hare Krishna. We had another group chanting just some bogus syllables. It was deception in the name of science. I'll probably go to hell for many lifetimes. There was a group, a control group, and those who chanted Hare Krishna mantra with strong statistical significance reduced their stress, reduced their depression, increased their life satisfaction. So it might seem, well, this is like some young fellow playing a flute, and it's just like any picture we might see in a magazine. It could seem that way to us, but it's not the truth. Well, this is just like some mantra. Yeah, you hear some song on the radio, it's the same thing. It might seem that way to us, but it's not so. It's not so. This is transcendental form that cleanses the heart and brings us to the very substratum of existence, transcendental vibration. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Shri Brahma-samhita ki jai. Shri Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Krishna. I welcome if anyone would like to share any insights, share any inspiration or realization, or ask any questions at this time. Teja Prakash Prabhu.
Prayed for someone in personal staff.
His personal staff, yeah.
So, he's such a, Srila such an intimate associate with Mahaprabhu.
Yeah.
And then, also our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah, influence
Also,
us.
they're both, we have such a strong connection. Uh,
Yeah,
strong shelter, so
Yeah.
we should be assured that we just can please them.
yeah.
Our success is guaranteed.
Thanks for that. Thanks for your simple and profound statement that gets to the very substratum of existence. Yeah, and just hearing you, affirm that, it just moves me to just hope, joy, encouragement that we have like the top staff members in the cosmic government, in the spiritually cosmic government, and just by sincerely following Srila Prabhupada and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, our eternal bliss is assured. Thanks for sharing. Any other comments or questions at this time? Hare Krishna.
I just want to say that, it's like really so nice that this process is so like direct to experience, like
Yeah.
that you have this PhD study,
Yeah,
and it like really shows the result.
Yeah.
And it's not, it would go like, okay, but like this like God consciousness, so maybe when I die, it's
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
idea, like
Yeah.
when I die, live a good life, die and go to heaven.
Yeah.
Like this is like, how
Yeah.
long was the experiment going on? How long?
the experiment we did,
Yeah, how long did the people like chanted these mantras to,
they chanted every day for a month.
and how much did they do? Like how many minutes?
3 rounds,
Okay, so
25 to 30 minutes.
so like half an hour for a month,
Yeah,
and they already have like
Significant, yeah.
results, like amazing. It's like visible how merciful these pure devotees are to give us something that actually like we can like really feel. It's not like, oh, wait 50 years and maybe you will like see some results. Like, no, it's like really felt, and there is so much mercy in there, because it's not like we have to do like austerity or have a blind faith or anything like that. It's really cool. I think like it's really cool.
it's really cool, it is. Thanks for sharing that, Ladini. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, because I said earlier, like I was never interested in religion in the conventional sense. So like, yeah, this is not like be good and go to heaven. Okay. And yeah. No, this is Prabhupada would say chant and be happy. And like, I mentioned like chant, I can say that it's pretty common for me to feel these effects like in one moment, 10 seconds. And that might just be a reflection of how immersed I am in the darkness of ignorance. So there's such a contrast. So I'm not saying that my chanting is so, but I truly experience practically every day I'm immersed in the darkness of ignorance, like that. And like, I'll start chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. And then like this like really hard problem, terrible problems. I got just like 10 seconds, like I got this. I got realization, I know I'm going to move forward. I'm not affected, I'm peaceful. Similar, I can be just like completely confused, disturbed, agitated. Come and experience me. And like I'll open any one of Prabhupada's books. Like within like 10 seconds, 30 seconds, read 2 sentences, I'm transformed. Like it works. Like I can't argue, even if I wanted to argue with it. Like, actually, it's a scientific experience. Teja.
When you first tried, you tried the 6-month experiment.
I did.
So how did that, when did you realize that this is what you were gonna stay?
Well, I'm realizing it every day. Yeah, well, no, it's a fair question you're asking. Yeah, about 2 months into the experiment, I visited my family in the Philadelphia area. It was 1984, and some of you heard my story. I got kidnapped, this and that. My parents, I literally got kidnapped. I mean, that's a whole adventure. It wasn't Ted Patrick, but it was in the prom prob Ted Patrick. And it was his disciplic succession. And so because my parents are well-meaning, but they heard different things about Krishna consciousness, no, okay. And I just was happy, but both my mother and father, my mother, when she left her body in 2010, she was absorbed in Prabhupada chanting Hare Krishna. And my father, when he left his body in 2012, he was completely absorbed in myself and his granddaughter, my daughter Sita, intensely chanting Hare Krishna. So happy ending. But anyhow, they kidnapped me. And so after the kidnapping, I knew I'm in for life in practicing Krishna consciousness, because I had some doubts at that time. I still had some doubts, but the kidnappers, I guess they were my gurus, and they just completely. No, it's true. It's true. I'm not just trying. It's funny, but I'm not just trying to be funny.
It was so expensive for your parents to remove all your doubts.
Yeah, no, they paid big money. They paid big money. So, because I did have some doubts at that time. The doubts, I can see now, the doubts were just, I want some excuse to do sense gratification, but I want it to sound intellectual, not just like I want to, I'm a big philosopher and like this and that. But anyhow, so I could see that, so the deprogrammers, and there was like 6 of them, and they flew me to Iowa from Philadelphia, it was a whole thing. But that they were doing things like they would have like computer printouts from the 1984 variety of like different persons who were so-called associated with the Hare Krishna organization, who had been convicted for this crime and that crime. That didn't have any effect on me, because I thought like, well, I could do the same thing with Orthodox Jews or Christians or Catholics or Buddhists, so like, because like what always attracted me was Prabhupada's teachings and the purity of the lifestyle and the process. And I know there are those who I was far from perfect. I'm far from perfect in following the process, and people might make terrible mistakes. There could be people who have evil intentions who come to this organization. So like that didn't impress me. But then they okay, of the deprogrammers, five of them, their role was to be thugs in case I tried to escape. And they would tackle me. My role was to be thugs. I'm not going to get into how I did escape eventually, but whatever. There was really only one who could like speak full sentences and conjugate nouns and verbs and things.
Great philosophical discussions.
Yeah. So like, okay. No, and sometimes when I would make a response, others they would literally foaming at the mouth. They was like, anyhow. And sometimes they would do it in the name of Jesus, which kind of like, what? Don't drag Jesus into your nonsense here. Okay, so but then so then when they tried to address or defeat the philosophy, so like you got these fellows, and they're up against like Bhagavatam, and so they're up against like Prabhupada, they're up against like the greatest philosophical minds, whoever existed. Literally, well, okay. Definitely the biggest challenge was keeping a straight face, because it was after about 2 hours when I realized that at first I walked into a house in the suburbs of Philadelphia. At first I saw my parents there, my sister was there, and then someone came out of the woodwork and he said, "Hello, David, my name's Mark." He was the one who could conjugate nouns and verbs. "My name's Mark. We want to talk to you about Krishna consciousness." So I thought, oh, great, I'd love to talk about Krishna consciousness. Okay, so we talked, and then I won't get into details, but it was clear after, like they weren't interested in rational conversation. So I said, okay, I feel complete. I've had enough. I think I'll leave now. And then one of them said, if you try to leave, we'll block your way. So then I realized, this is a federal crime. This is a felony. I'm here against my will. Anyhow. So then I said, oh, okay. So then I went into a different strategy of staying 1 or 2 psychological steps ahead of them. Because if I go, okay, I've seen the light, I've surrendered, yeah, I don't want to ever chant Hare Krishna again. Yeah, Bhagavad Gita, it doesn't make any sense to me. Then they, oh, you just, yeah. So like to like show some resistance, but then gradually see the light and like that. And so that was about a week until they were convinced, and they sent me to a rehab center in Iowa City, which some people say is a contradiction in terms. Anyhow, so yeah, so that, because so when it came to the philosophy, then like, yeah, they were they were so lame. I don't know if this not they were just like sub retarded. I mean, like they just had nothing to say and they're up against the Bhagavatam, like, so like, but I need to keep a straight face, like, oh wow, I never considered that. Oh, it's just, wow, yeah, I never thought about that point. I'm sure Prabhupada has nothing to say on that one. Yeah, I'm gonna reflect on that. So basically, but what I could see, by the end of the week was like, in one sense, this is the best the planet has to offer to persuade me to not follow Bhagavad Gita and not study this. This is the best the planet had to offer, and they were just completely, yeah, they were just complete idiots. Okay. So then whatever doubts I had, it just like it, so I offer them my eternal obeisances, the thugs also. So so at that point I know, like, no, this isn't just an experiment for another 4 months. Hare Krishna.
Can I share one story?
Sure.
When was it? On Monday I went to visit a farm. I used to ride horses
Yeah.
in near Lake City, and that's how I came to Alashua somehow.
Yeah.
And I went to visit my whatever friends and the boss at the farm, who is now 83 years old.
Yeah.
And husband is 91. And I decided, okay, I did like this 2 weeks intense bhakti yoga immersion.
Yeah.
I had enough of that. I just wanted to do some fun with horses.
Yeah.
I came there, and then there's like these 2 like very old people.
Yeah.
They look like physically very not attractive.
Yeah.
And then they started to speak. It didn't get better when they started to speak.
Didn't get better. Yeah.
Attractiveness. I was like, oh, there is something about the devotees, when they are like in this age, they are still like so like attractive in all ways. I was like, how am I going to spend here these 24 hours? I was like, okay, no, I want to have the fun with the horses anyway, so that's good. Let's wait till the morning. And I really didn't want to do like any Krishna consciousness preaching anything. So
You were dedicated.
I was.
No Krishna consciousness. Yeah.
So then, we look at the horses and we like play with them and like meet with some and like that. And then we went for a walk, and she was Jean, her name is Jean. She was talking. And like the more she was talking, the more pain I felt in my heart. And then I thought, okay, I have to share Krishna consciousness with them. So then we had like 4-hour conversation. She was really into it. She was like, I cannot ride the horses anymore, my back.
It's getting older. Yeah.
And like, what you can like prepare for your next destination. And she was like really interested about it, and I spoke, and I gave prasada, and like that. And I was leaving in the evening, and she was radiant.
She was radiant. She was transformed. Yeah.
Man, this person is so attractive. I could stay here. And it's just. But anyway, so it's just like this week. I was hoping she would come today, but she didn't. But anyhow.
Despite yourself, there you were sharing Krishna consciousness. Despite yourself for hours and hours. That's it.
But to see the effect, it was like
Yeah.
so almost like mystical.
Mystical.
The transformation of this 83-year-old woman.
Yeah. Just press a button and the alarm will stop doing that.
Get the child first.